right, welcome to the SaaS Revolution show. I'm your host, Alex Theuma. I'm joined today by Sujan Patel, who's the CEO of Mailshake. I've known Sujan for a number of years now across a couple of businesses. So you're back on the podcast. I can't remember the last time you were on, actually, Sujan, but
I think it
great
was
to
like
have you
4 or 5
back.
years ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for having me. It's been a long time. I think we probably were like at $1 million ARR when we chatted last, or maybe even less.
You may not have had some grey in your beard back then. We'll have to go back and watch that, but I can clearly see it now. But it's good.
Yeah.
It's looking good. But yeah, great. This is actually the second podcast recording I'm doing of the year. Getting back into it, and great to speak to a familiar face. So it's kind of I'm easing myself back in, Sujan. So
Thank you.
It's a nice feeling. But tell us, for those that are listening, maybe they don't know you. Tell us, who is Sujan Patel? Let's dig into that.
Yeah. So I started off my career as an SEO and search engine optimization, then kind of expanded to all things marketing over the years. As SEO kind of evolved into, hey, you really need to do good marketing to get SEO value. And then over time, originally my first business was a marketing agency, and really this was around like 2008 to 2014, where I worked with all types of businesses. And I was fortunate enough to be kind of in the Bay Area, really hot time to be in the Bay Area, where I worked with like companies like Mint, LinkedIn, really TaskRabbit, stuff like that. They were like, these were companies literally within arm's reach, like we shared offices or what have you. And so long story short, I worked as an outside consultant or marketing agency, helped a lot of these companies grow. And, I worked from e-commerce, to services, subscriptions, SaaS, and really fell in love with software. And I was like, how do I be on the other end of the economics of a software business, right? Like, sure, we can help companies grow, but like, how do I own one? And really, I realized during that time I was missing some key skills. So I knew marketing, and that means I can get traffic and I can figure out ways to convert people, but I don't know how to build a product. And so in that, about 8 years of running Single Grain, I tried to start many endeavors. Most of them failed. And I tried maybe 3 or 4 takes at running starting software companies. And my endeavor was really like, let's just build marketing stuff for my audience, right? I'm already selling to them. But what I was missing was product skill. I'd work with the developer. I'm like, hey, build this, right? And they would build it, and then only I would know how to use it, and I was the one driving the thing, and driving like the UI, UX, and so I realized like, oh, I need to actually go work at a SaaS company. I need to like learn the ins and outs, and so I sold my business to my other partners, and effectively we took a job at a SaaS company. And one of my clients, in fact, as a VP of marketing, I was like, I don't know, early in, Series A investor, and then I joined as an employee. But long story short, within the 6-7 months of joining that company, I started Mailshake. And Mailshake it's a long time to get to product market fit, way too long. And during that time, it took about 1.5 to 2 years. We pivoted to a different audience, different business completely. But during that time, my business partner and I were like, I'm really good at marketing. Why don't we, instead of starting a company, why don't we go buy them, right? And so, I was probably early in the micro-acquire type businesses where I was buying small software companies. Fast forward now, 7 years of doing this. I'm on year 8 of buying and running companies. I've done about 11 acquisitions, sold, I don't know, like 5 or 6 different companies. Currently have 4 main businesses. Mailshake is the primary one. It's kind of our portfolio company. Mm-hmm. We're about like 40-ish, 45 employees, something like that. And then we got Right Inbox, which is a Gmail and Chrome extension. Think about adding more functionality to Gmail. We got Voila Norbert, finding prospect information. And then ZoomShift, which is a HR tech companies. But effectively, we're about like 70 employees, 8 figures ARR, and growing.
Right, lots of questions there, actually. So, and we could probably do a whole separate podcast about buying SaaS companies through MicroAcquire or elsewhere, and kind of getting them operationally efficient, and I guess kind of like rolling them up. I even had some conversations on that sort of yesterday. A question on that then. So Mailshake was one that you didn't acquire, but you built yourselves. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we started that endeavor in 2015, early 2015. And the original company name was called contentmarketer.io. And the premise was, well, first and foremost, I was like, my goal was I want to start a software company. Yeah. Let me remove as many of the hurdles to get into software. So I'm 6 months in, helping. I was like number 2 at the SaaS company I was working for, and so I was immersed in product. I learned all the things I need to learn: product, sales, and I was fortunate enough to be the CEO. Was really a product-driven CEO, and so I learned really how to be a good product person and the value of good UX and usability and easy to use was the like magic sauce I got out of that my 2 years at that company. But anyways, we started Content Marketer.io really as a way, one, to sell to marketers. Like, I know this customer, they know me, I have a personal brand I've built. So before I started the company, I had a really clear goal. I was like, I want to start a software company to sell to marketers. So first and foremost, rewind 2 years, I started building my personal brand, right? Building an email list. I launched a book on growth hacking called 100 Days of Growth in 2014. We worked our butts off to sell about 40,000 copies and effectively got 40,000 emails. And I used that email list and my blog and that whole momentum to launch Content Marketer.io. What we didn't get product market fit. We got revenue. We got like 5-10K MRR, and we were effectively flat, and then slightly declining. And people weren't using, is an age-old problem. People weren't activating and continually use the software because there were some flaws. So 2 things we did. We took a lot of the functionality. We had this like big thing where Content Marketer would effectively find email addresses and then let you start email campaigns as well as Twitter automation as well. And so, but we were selling to marketers, and there was all these issues effectively with the email finding part. So no one would use the good stuff, like the email outreach section of our product. And so we made a micro tool called Connector, just focusing on just the email outreach part. And we made it free. And then we're like it caught on. We literally just launched to our email list. It caught on really quickly. And then we're like, well, we should charge for this. Let's just charge like $10, right? A month. No, there's like a single user platform. This was a Hail Mary. This is this is what saved the company from me from quitting in it, right? I'm like about 150 to 200 grand in to this business, about a year in. Got 10K MRR, or like maybe it was like 8. I don't remember exactly the numbers, but like it was declining. It was where our cost was more than our, and I'm putting in money more than our revenue. And so when we launched Connector, we're like, oh wow, and this works. And then at $10 a month, we were able to get more revenue from that product than our main product. And we're like, well, something's wrong here. Let's just ditch this whole main product and rebrand a Connector. And so my technical co-founder, and he went to town to go build this new version with a lot of feedback that I gave him from the Connector early users. And simple things like allow people to add more users, right? Like, let's have a team plan and then more seats and such. Our pricing was all kind of wonky. But what we had, our magic sauce, was you could go in with 0 training and start a campaign. It was the simplest, easiest thing to launch. That stuff is still in our DNA at Mailshake. So our goal is to make easy to use software for salespeople. And so we want no training. And we'll provide, we provide training now. We're a lot more mature and whatnot. But originally started out with email, and now we're kind of omni-channel. So we have phone, email, LinkedIn automation. and such and such. But my point is like when it took us about like 2 years to relaunch Connector, and the magic happened when we got probably like somewhere between 5,000 users and like 5,500 salespeople started using the product. And we're like, they came in, and I interviewed like a lot of customers early on, and the marketers were like, yeah, this is cool. I love this. They were comparing us to like Yesware, Streak, and some like companies that were like on the lower end of the market. And salespeople came in and like, whoa, this is awesome. I just made money using this like right now. And we're like, oh, that's not the use case we thought of, right? But this was meant for bloggers and SEO people to do link building and outreach for marketing and biz dev reasons. And then when salespeople came, like, oh, you can use this to generate revenue. Well, so that's when we found out salespeople are our actual customers, or like founders or people using the company, using the product to do sales. And so that was when we're like, oh, yeah, we need to like change everything in branding. And that's when Mailshake kind of got to product market fit. It was probably around like late 2017.
So, and thanks for sharing that. A great story there. So from getting to product market fit in 2017, realizing this different use case and an ICP to today, I think things look like they're going really well for you. I've seen the new house in Austin. I see a new car almost every 2 months. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm going to ask you.
Yeah. So things are going well. I've fortunately, I know how to make money, and I've made it since I was like 18. And so that's always fed my car habit. Got a diversified stream of income essentially. So I'm able to like go all in on all my companies. I don't have to like, I didn't, for the last 5-7 years, I didn't have to wasn't poor because I wasn't taking a good salary. I wasn't taking a good salary. I was like dumping it all back into Mailshake and our other companies to grow. But, we talked before in really about the journey to go up market. And so that was 2017 was the early like the first things that led us to go, oh, we need to go after the sales customer. And we were like, how do we enter this market, right? So everything is competitive. There's even now more than ever, it's easy to start a company, right? You use Stripe API. You really don't need to build a lot of the infrastructure because there's a lot of great companies out there. So there's a lot more competition. So we were like, how do we enter this market? And that was not where we wanted to go. It was just the entry point. And so we chose SMB, right? Self-service SaaS, because that's my background. I work with a lot of B2C or more prosumers and SMB to get them in the product. So product-led growth, before it was product-led growth, that was kind of what I knew. And so like, let's go with that. And we're always from 2017 to 2019, we were looking for how do we grow this company? So we started at $9 a month per user, and we quickly learned it was our pricing to enter the market. We quickly learned that there's no way to build a multi-million-dollar business at $9 a month a user unless I get millions or hundreds of thousands of users, right? And since we're B2B, there's probably not a path to get there with that price point. So we actually doubled prices like somehow we did it every July. So every July we're like, I know this because our Stripe billing says July pricing, like it says like July, whatever year. So anyways, like long story short, we went from 9 to 19 to 29 to 39 to now we're at 59. So we started moving slightly up market away from the solopreneurs and an individual buying the thing to teams, right? And so we were always moving up market, but last January, so 2022, again, my partner and I, we buy businesses. So we know how to evaluate a business and what it's worth. So, we were doing really well, growing and doubling 50% to 100% growth year over year. And we looked at the company and we're like, based off we had a high churn rate. We've tried all sorts of things to solve churn rate, but really came down to our SMB customers have a high likelihood of failing, period, right? And they're like, because we're super cheap, like anybody can bust out a credit card, pay $60 for 3 months, a month for 3 months, and then try it. But chances are they haven't figured out their pitch, their business model, all these things. And so most of our churn is coming from the cohort of customers actually failing, right? In what we wanted to do. So we're like, we have to go out market. The bigger customers were sticking around. And so two things we realized. One is we did it every year we do this, but this year, 2022 was the critical year where we looked at the business, like, how would you evaluate this business? What would I pay for this business if I was buying it? And the reality was like, I have a high churn monthly business with a lot of monthly revenue, and my ARPU's low. Like, how do I 10x this business if I bought it today? And the reality was, I couldn't do it with the path that we're on. So that was realization number one. And we thought we were like a 4 or 5x ARR revenue business, but when we talk to bankers and other folks that like independently value the business, and we do this again every year, they're like, yeah, your business sucks, I wouldn't buy it. Like, or they'd buy it for like 2x revenue. And I'm like, oh, that's not what that. So our goal from day one was to build a $100 million exit value business, bootstrapped. And so I was like, that's far off. The 2x revenue was way far off from our $100 million goal. I was like, okay, I'm not working this hard to do 2x revenue exit. I need to change it. And like, so pretty much we dug in deep, and problem was churn. We had an 8% monthly churn rate, which is horrible. And we're like, how do we get this to 0 to 1%, and how do we get our NRR up? And so that was one factor. Number two was, with an 8% churn, we have a leaky bucket. We're going to hit our growth ceiling. So the growth ceiling is like when your churn and your growth catch up to 0. And in January 2022, we estimated like sometime in 2023 summer, we'd hit this ceiling where we cannot grow anymore if our churn is this high, right? Because you can only add so much revenue if you're losing revenue every month, right? We're like refilling this bucket that's continuing to leak. And so we're like, well, how do we fix this? So we looked at all of our data, lots of customer interviews. And again, it's very obvious. We had competitors in the space like Outreach and SalesLoft that were funded companies, very focused on mid-market, enterprise, and above. And we have SMB players like Lemlist was one that came out. There's Reply. There's a bunch of smaller companies, and we're all fighting for the same customer. And I'm like, F this. We're not playing this game, right? And I believe building features is a zero-sum game. Effectively, everybody can build features. And going back to like what made Mailshake special, it wasn't more features. We actually don't have the most features intentionally, so people can do the few right things to book demos and make close deals, right? And so long story short, we're like, we need to go up market because this business isn't worth what we thought it was going to be worth.
Yeah.
And so in Q2 of last year, we laid out a plan. So first and foremost, we ripped the Band-Aid on churn. We're like, our yearly customers had a 1% churn rate. Our monthly customers had somewhere between 8 and 10% churn rate, including delinquent churn. And I'm like, yeah, we need to go to yearly. So we did a bunch of projections, and we decided to shrink our company in projected ARR and go yearly. And so the math worked out to where if we got 1/4 of the customers or 1/5 of the customers that came in, we had effectively would solve our churn problem like 12 to 18 months from that point on, right? And so we're like, okay, let's do this, right? And we'll do it for a month or two, and if it doesn't work, we'll switch back and we'll have a monthly business and it'll suck. But it worked. We got way more than 1/5 of those customers. And we also, so going up market, the first path was changing pricing, right? So we went from monthly to yearly. Number two was, how do we go after this customer? Like, we had, my background's in marketing, so naturally we were good at marketing. Our blog was getting 300,000 visitors a month and continuing to grow. Like we had a good, we didn't have product-led growth because we always had upfront payment required. And that was our solution to solve activation churn. And essentially our 8 to 10% churn was all from activation. So it was the first 90 days. So we had activation churn effectively. And so the number two thing we did was we figured out how do we go up market? What are the levers or channels we're going to use? And unfortunately, it wasn't marketing that was going to drive the up market. We were doing more marketing and we were getting more customers, but we kept getting more of the same customers. And this isn't doing it. We need to go after the sales audience. And our sales customer, they don't know who the heck we are. We don't exist in their minds, right? We're not even being evaluated against outreach and sales law. And so we're okay, pricing, first of all, we weren't evaluated because our pricing was so out of whack. If you're going to go sign a $100,000 contract with sales law for outreach, and we're charging $99 a month, that's just apples and lemons, right? It's just so different, right? And so we just weren't even considered there. So what we realized is marketing's not going to get us there. So I had to unfortunately fire the whole marketing team. When we were spending about $1 million a year on marketing, and this isn't going to work. No amount of traffic, no amount of the channels that we're investing in, we're going to get the growth. And it really came down to sales and outbound sales. And so we hired this hot shot outbound sales leader, and I had been following. So Jed Marley is our head of outbound sales. He came from PandaDoc, and so I was looking for this unicorn hire where they had experience selling in low ACV. So going up market is hard from monthly. If I started the business up market, no problem, right? We would just be used to selling deals. But transitioning was a very, very big, it's like moving a cruise liner. You got to go slow and you got to put a lot of effort to even make small turns. And so we tried to figure out, so at the time we have, again, low ARPU, high churn, and effectively that means our average contract value was in the thousands, 1 to 2. And that was a good day, right? That was a good year. In order for us to do outbound, and go up market, we need 5, 10, 20, 50K ACVs. And so we're still on this path, but I feel like we've made enough traction to where we now say it's working. So we're pretty much having this, we have about 5,000 customers and probably, 50,000 users or so. And of those, maybe 5-7% are those upmarket customers. And every month we're kind of tracking that. But effectively, we're how do we go from 1 to 2,000 ACV to 5,000 to 10,000 to 50,000? That's kind of the goal here. We're kind of still working on it, and our ACV. So going back to key hires, I had to find an outbound salesperson or a sales leader that knew how to sell low ACV. I can't go get somebody. I can't get a VP of sales and that does enterprise or mid-market deals because they might be able to sell 50 or 100K deals, but we don't have a product that can support that today last year. And so we had to inch by inch go up market. And it really came down to hiring the right, investing in the right channel, stop investing in the wrong channels. So that $1 million I saved in marketing, and it sucked to fire people and lay people off, even though they were doing a good job, but their goals would never hit company goals. Mm. But and then we spent that same money into outbound sales and really beefing up our product and sales team.
So let me ask. So and when you understand, so with the higher ACV target customers, you built the outbound sales team, and the 5-7% that you kind of mentioned, have they all exclusively come from the outbound sales team? Pretty much.
Not really, actually. So so that's what you would think from the outside, that hey, we did outbound sales, so now we're getting all of our revenue from outbound. Actually, first thing we did was change our messaging. So we used Winter, Pep Lodge's company, and we audited all of our messaging on our website, and Well, we found out what messaging would resonate and what pain points would resonate with our new customer. So we went back to the drawing board of like, who's our ICP? It was like pre-product market fit efforts, right? So like, who's our ICP? What messaging resonates with them? And then from an outbound sales perspective, but then also like if we're targeting sales leaders, like sales managers, sales directors, and VP of sales or CROs, kind of that gamut of people, what messaging on a website would resonate? So we pretty much redid our website and copy. It wasn't even design changes; it was just copy changes to really focus on pain points and things that would resonate with these new customers. So that was step one, and then we went outbound sales. And because of the outbound sales, and we hired a prolific a sales leader who had a personal brand and was knew all the sales folks. We actually got in front of the right customers, and so outbound sales drove like a third of new business, maybe even less. All of our marketing efforts, we just magically got the right customer because we had the right messaging, and inbound sales was getting more and more of the right customer as we really focused narrowly on that ICP, right? And so first was trying to understand that, and then we scrapped our roadmap that we were building, and we said, okay, what do we need to build? What product do we need to build to hit that ICP? And so that's kind of the last change that we did. It was like, okay, let's go really truly understand this ICP. And there's probably around 11 or 12 things that we were missing in the product. So we stack ranked them and we're like chipping away at it.
And you said that you fired the marketing team. Surely you must have some marketing department right now in terms of which is doing marketing to the SMBs and even the mid-sized companies, right?
Yeah. So we have a 1.5 person marketing team, right? Okay. It is a very small marketing team. Okay. We have one goal. People don't know who we are our ICP doesn't know who we are. So we have a branding and awareness, very, very top of the funnel problem. So we turned one of our salespersons who's been really like leading the way of building like her personal brand, as well as just helping our sales reps build their personal brands. And so instead of focusing on Mailshake the brand, we focus on the 12 or so sales reps we have and helping them build their personal brands, all around the same messaging. So at the moment, the messaging that works, and it's going to continue to change, is that we've got superior email deliverability than anyone in the in the space, and that's because we built our product intentionally for that. And so all of our messaging, all of our sales reps are all talking about deliverability because that's a pain point that we've validated that people care about, that we're good at, and that can get us demos and people interested in having conversation and purchasing the product. So our 1.5 person marketing team is her name's Maggie. So her job is to build our branding and awareness. So she's going out there. We launched 2 podcasts. We launched like an email newsletter that's kind of curated by our sales leaders. So we're doubling down on really talking to and with and having conversations with these sales leaders. And so now we're in conversations.
What has moving up market done to your ARR, and also what do you think it's done to your valuation? Because you say the previous valuers saying this is not a great business, but now what would you say?
Yeah, so we had 3 things we wanted to fix in our business. Bigger customers, so higher ACV, very measurable, right? Like you can measure new deal value and total value of the customer. Number 2 is eradicate churn. And number 3 is increase NRR to 110 to 120%. And so those are the metrics I look at. And all 3 metrics So in May of 2022, we went to yearly pricing. In October, November of last year, probably like September, October of last year. So it took about 4 months. We got above 100% NRR and pretty much eradicated churn And so, yeah, I mean, we had these metrics to hit essentially. And it really came down to like, if we look at like, selling this company now, I look at $100 million exit value as a really good goal. It's a simple line, a simple sentence that includes a whole lot of subsets. So if you want to exit, you have to be a well-run company. You have to be profitable. You have to be growing. You have to be somebody has to buy you and says, I can do more with this company, or like this would be valuable. And we looked at who would buy us. And effectively, the buyer market was very slim. It was PE companies. And so PE companies care about financials. So we need to have really good metrics in order to be sellable to PE. Now, the other companies would be strategic, right? So like a CRM could buy us, Salesforce could buy us, right? Like so, but Salesforce would not buy a $1,000 ACV company, right?
Yeah.
Even 5,000, even 50,000 makes no relevant difference to them, right? And so I just look at expanding our buyer pool outside of PE. Because PE, it's like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You could sell to them. The valuation you might get is going to probably shitty or worse than a strategic exit. And so the goal was just really like, let's keep moving up market. There's no cap on this. There's no like, I'm not sharing intentional valuation because I'm transparent to a certain point.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of things we look at in how we value the company. But effectively, we need to go back on this path to $100 million exit value. And to put it simply, $100 million exit value means you're at $20 to $25 million a year, growing 50%.
Yeah.
That rule of 40 is important, right? So the rule of 40 is like, I'm going to butcher this, but effectively you have to be growing net 40% a year. And there's absolutely no way to grow 40% a year with 8% churn and monthly pricing. It just doesn't work unless you've figured out this like magical channel and you have funding and you're burning money on your CAC.
No, awesome. Thanks for sharing that, and the insights very thorough there around moving up market from the SMB to enterprise and why you've done it. Moving into the quickish fire round, Sujin, what one thing, and maybe it's what we've just discussed, what one thing has moved the needle the most for Mailshake?
Understanding your customer.
What is the best advice you have ever received?
Charge more.
That's a good one. What's your biggest failure you've made and lesson learned?
Just so many. Channel market fit. Not addressing that.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so channel market fit is like what marketing or what channel acquisition channel is actually going to hit your ICP, right? Again, that $1 million marketing mistake I made, we wasted a year and a half and $1 million. And we didn't get the customer we wanted. It's like, and as a bootstrap company, that's $1 million that goes in my pocket. That's like a life-changing amount of money, right?
Yeah.
That could have went in my pocket or could have went into the right avenue. So we had the wrong channel for the customer.
What's the hardest thing about being a CEO?
Making tough decisions for the good of the company, even though it might not be good for individuals or myself.
What does your daily routine look like?
Play with my kids in the morning. So I got 3 young kids. I get to play with them. And first thing in the morning for an hour and a half, head to the gym, start my day around 9:30 to about 12:30. I've got a lot of one-on-ones and management meetings. And then after 12:30 or so, I kind of have no meetings. I kind of intentionally have no meetings. And I focus on the big questions of how can I add more value to my companies? How can we add, I do no individual contributor work. How can we add more value and make our companies more appealing for an exit?
Cool. Very cool. This question's not there. I'm going to ask it. How many new cars a year do you get? Are you on some sort of subscription?
Oh man, I waste so much money. I consider it's only wasting money if you don't enjoy it. Okay, so this is my hobby. Probably like 7 to 12 cars a year. I get really bored. I've kind of owned like 50, 60 cars now. Yeah.
That's almost a new car a month.
Like 3. My average is like 3 months. So I have 3 cars right now. So like
Yeah.
I rotate through them. Each one kind of has a 3 to 6 month cycle. And so it does turn out to be like my wife to this point, like my wife's like, don't even talk to me about this car stuff. Like, I've got a budget I spend. And if you're wondering, how do I do this? How do you make money on this? You don't make money. It's a money pit. I don't care. I've made good money since I was, for the last 20 years, enough to where I can justify wasting it on cars. And I truly enjoy it. Like I go on drives and like, you know, I put maybe 3 to 10,000 miles on each car, but those are all fun miles. Like I'm not driving to commute and stuff.
Yeah. Very cool. Good stuff. And finally, you're speaking at SaaS Austin in, I think it's 31st of May to the 2nd of June. What are you looking forward to about SaaS coming to Austin and do SaaS USA? What is it about Austin as well that you know I think sort of is interesting for people in SaaS, you know, at the moment?
Yeah, I love the fact that SaaS is coming to the USA again. I'm so excited. I had an amazing time at the Dublin event. I love the energy that SaaS has, and you know, the speakers, the founders, the attendees, all world class. Very, very different energy than some of the other SaaS conferences. I feel like it's less salesy and more building of relationships and content. So I'm excited to bring it to my hometown. I think SaaS energy really matches the vibe of Austin, and Austin has grown quite a bit with so many entrepreneurs and SaaS founders and companies moving here. So I'm excited to get everyone together at a place so we can kind of connect and whatnot. And I'm looking at the speaker lineup, and there's just like, I'm actually looking forward. I'm actually going to be pinging some speakers like, hey, give me a rundown or share your slides like now, right? And so there's just so much good content coming in.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sujin. Looking forward to that. I'm hoping potentially to make a trip out to Austin before then, but if not, I'll definitely be seeing you at SaaS USA 31st of May to the 2nd of June. Well, Sujin Patel, thanks so much for being a great guest on the SaaS Revolution show today. Appreciate you coming back, you know, 4 years after the first podcast, and, you know, congrats on the success with Mailshake and moving it up market. We'll get the valuation out of you in person in Austin, but yeah, looking forward to it, and we'll speak soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Take care.